The next section is going to be the formation of ego, all right, which Dr. Low had talked about. Now, Dr. Low has already mentioned about evolution of self in human in some form. Okay, I'm going to elaborate on that theme, and I'm going to extend it to living organisms. Okay, first of all, this is from Darwinism. Obviously, this is a philosopher. It reads total inability or total depravity as a consequence of the fall of man into sin. Now, we were elaborating a little bit on original sin, okay? So man's fall into sin. Every person born into the world is enslaved to the service of sin. People who are not by nature inclined to love God. Now, God can be just any God, okay? True consciousness, the higher form of religion, this supreme consciousness, with their whole heart, mind, or strength, but rather all are inclined to serve their own interests over those of their neighbor and to reject the rule of God. Difficult verse, but basically saying we were born evil with a sin. Thus, all people by their own faculties are morally unable to choose to follow God and be saved because they are unwilling to do so out of the necessity of their own natures. Again, nature, okay? The term total in this context refers to sin affecting every part of a person, not that every person is as evil as possible. In other words, basically what it is saying is, in our DNAs, there's good and bad. That's part of it, and that's really what the original sin is. And later on, we actually can develop in Buddhist teaching how that original sin come about in a different dimension. In Christianity, in the Old Testament, kind of Adam and Eve, God gave it to us, or it happened after Adam and Eve. In Buddhists, they have a different way of explaining it called the original causalities, and we may have a chance to develop that later. All right. Next one here. Now, formation of self and ego. Since beyond antiquity, some basic conditions are required for the evolution of microbes into a higher life form. That's if you believe in Darwinism. Okay. Now, first and foremost is the desire for self and ego to survive. I don't think anybody can argue with that one. We have to survive. The organism has to survive. Second, self-I ego, to take shape, structure, and form. Some basic survival needs must be met. Otherwise you die. Okay. These needs are air, water, food, excretion, health, shelter, reproduction. I don't think anyone can dispute this statement up to now, right? For even microbes, bacteria to survive, they have to do this basic part. So this basic survival needs are common to all living creatures. We call it survival instinct. It has not developed into human instinct yet. We basically have a survival instinct, and we developed the concept called human instinct. Do we have any problem with this statement? Every creature, every organism has to survive, but they do not think like we humans think. From there to there is the thinking process. No dispute? Yeah. Human instinct? You're kind to us?
I just want to, could you give me the example of the human instinct?
Yeah. You're kind to me. That's human instinct, right? You love your family. That's a human instinct.
Yeah. I just want to add maybe a bit more. For example, a human wondering, why am I here? What's my purpose of living here? I don't know if higher animals like whales or dolphins also think like that. But human would take the extreme of, okay, maybe I'll go to a church or pray to some higher being. Animal, like a lot of in the animal kingdom, they also love the family. They make their young and they feed them and so on. No difference from the survival, because it has survival advantage, so those are survival instinct. So just loving our family, feeding them, is still put us at the animal level. It hasn't elevated us to the human instinct yet. I think human spirituality is a human instinct towards that which clearly distinguishes from the animal.
Thank you. That's a great example. So third, through interaction and integration with its environment, self, I, ego, thoughts are created. Again, thought, okay? These thoughts must nurture its structure, while structure further nurtures its thought. So we create a cause and result vicious circle. Because we have to survive, so we create forms and structures, and these can interrelate and develop further and further. We will elaborate on this further later on. Start with really basic evolution. Microbials, bacteria, they have to survive. Then, the microbes develop from bacteria into more higher functionalities. So they become amoeba, which is still a single cell. Then we develop into two cells, eat each other, reproduce, and get bigger and bigger. Now we have make a quantum jump, okay? Right? This is survival. Food. Again. Back in before our times, dinosaurs eat each other. It's survival instinct. Now, this survival creates what? Suffering. This one suffers, obviously being killed. This one suffers too, because he has to hunt. Both of them actually are suffering. The winner and the loser. Just because he eats it, both are suffering. So as we progress through the food chain, from plants and all the way up to the eagle, from phantoms all the way up to the whale. So the eagle gets bigger, and it's the food chain. Now, that's part of the food chain too. We, humans, think we are the center of the universe, we are the highest form, and we eat everything. Oh, that's the Chinese, okay. Right? Chinese eat everything, alright? So in Western culture we don't eat dogs, okay, Chinese food. Anything that walks, probably with two legs, or without two legs, called Homo sapien, we don't eat. So that's the food chain. That's part of the formation of the ego in evolution. Something is coming down here, isn't it? Wow. We go from survival instinct, human instinct, then as we ask the question, who we are, what we are, we have spiritual instinct, we believe in God, we have religion, and then beyond it, we have true consciousness, which is what a Buddha is. Mother Teresa has true consciousness. She's also a spiritual figure. So later on in the presentation, in the next 2.5 lectures, we'll develop this concept. So you can see the evolution of human from basic survival instinct to human instinct, asking questions, thinking about things, be a bit enlightened, ultimately transcends everything and be truly enlightened and reach what we call the true consciousness. Our philosophers were probably here, there, and they haven't quite reached this yet. Mother Teresa, through her acts of benevolence, reached this level. So, actually sum things up. Since beyond antiquity in the evolution of microbes to human, the desire of survival of self has the number one priority of all life form. No argument with that. From this desire of survival, through the interaction with its environment, shape and thoughts are created. Through mutual nurturing, a vicious circle is formed. From this, now we are taking a quantum jump, okay? You may not grasp this concept yet, but as we develop this course, you will. So we are giving you a prelude of what we are going to talk about in the future. And from this vicious circle, greed, anger, called hostility, ignorance and stubbornness are created. These are the 3 cardinal sins. It may not be the original sin, but the 3 cardinal sins. Now, greed is created by the survival necessity of self. Even single-cell organisms, including virus, wants to survive. No question, no doubt. Right? If it doesn't survive, it's dead. And then we are not suffering from it. Okay? So, we're afraid to die. We don't want to be hungry, etc., etc., etc. All the basic survival instincts. Now, anger hostility is created by the survival necessity of self. Hence, survival of the fittest. We compete incessantly. Look at the business world. We want to survive, we want to be better, we want our company to be the biggest, and that's why Bill Gates was charged by the Department of whatever U.S., right? Okay, Competition Bureau, because he was trying to make his company bigger by improving his. Now, ignorance and stubbornness is created by the survival necessity of self. Hence, we fail to understand the instinct of self. It's like that statue that was all covered by dirt. We are ignorant that we actually are an enlightened statue that can shine gloriously for everyone else to see and benefit. These are the 3 cardinal sins that Buddhists talk about. Alright, we end this section. Maybe we can entertain some questions or take a break until we go to the next part.
First, I just reiterate that the purpose of this going deep into the understanding of I, self, ego, because this is an obstacle to enlightenment. This I, ego, self thing is the blind that covers our eyes from our true nature. So we need to understand this enemy of our own in order to conquer it and become enlightened. So that's why we're spending a lot of time understanding the formation of ego. And ego is formed since millions of years ago from bacteria, survival, all the way up to today. So we have millions of years of evolution for the formation of ego. So this is a big enemy. And that is why most human beings are not enlightened. But the few saw this inherent DNA of survival instinct as the obstacle to enlightenment. Very few people see it, and we are studying this, and we are trying to understand it, overcome it, in order to become better humans. I think that's pretty much sums it up. That's the purpose of this lecture. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Chan, for a very enlightening lecture. Please help me to thank Dr. Chan.